Once, I went on a trip to St. Augustine, Florida. I was trying to get away for a couple days and just relax, have some fun, shop, etc. I decided to go to Ripley's Believe It or Not, because it was a good place to park for free, included with my ticket purchase, while I waited on my hotel room to become available. I approached the quite large, somewhat ominous, small castle-like building. There was a large statue of David out front, guarded by tall hedges to hide his fruits. I went inside to pick up my tickets for the Red Train City tour and decided to buy a tour of the museum aspect of the place, since I had some time to kill. I finalized my purchase and proceeded on the tour. On the on-side, the building looked like an old mansion. I went up the first flight of stairs and gazed at the many curiosities the museum holds, including an art piece of Marilyn Monroe portrait made of pennies, a Freddie Krueger portrait made of candy, a giant ivory ship and a crown of thorns that allegedly was made from the same tree that was used for Jesus' crown of thorns. As I made my way to close of the tour, I reached the top floor where there was a small, movie theater, with 5 rows of seats. The theater played scenes from Ripley's famous TV shows and talked about the different items in the facility. I sat in the back of the theater on the outside of the row, closest to the exit, and began watching the film. A woman walked by me and was wearing what looked like a period 1850s or early 1900s Victorian-style dress. I looked at the woman out of the corner of my eye and continued watching the film. The film ended and began to start again, as it looped continuously, and I noticed the woman at some point had left and I hadn't noticed. I walked out of the theater and finished the tour, and I remember thinking how neat it was that they had people in costume to really sell the Victorian feel of the place. I thought perhaps there were others in costume, but I didn't notice anyone else in costume. I didn't think much of it until I approached the woman at the front desk to ask her, "Where are the other costume people? And could I get my picture taken with them?" The woman looked at me like a crazy person. She said, "We don't have anyone in costume." I said, "Are you sure? Because I saw a woman in the theater who was." Just smiled and said, "Oh, that's probably one of the women who were found here after the fire." She went on to explain they 2 women were found dead after a fire in the residence back in the 1800s. Their deaths are a mystery because they were both found in the same position, on separate floors of the building. Despite the fire, they had both drowned in the bathtub. Rumors had it they were murdered, but the killer was never found. The spot where the theater is was formerly one of the bathrooms where one of the women was found. First, this was 3 years ago, during my senior year of high school. My hometown is extremely boring and pretty rural, so when my friends and I want to find something to do, we usually go out to the country to do it. One night, about 4 of my friends and I had been hanging out all day and decided to go to Eden's Tunnel, a supposedly haunted tunnel very close by, at around 11:30 to look for spooky shit. We all met up at a Kroger's and took the same Jeep Cherokee to get there. We ended up getting lost on a back road for about 30 minutes, landing us in some dark dirt road that gave everyone a sick feeling in their stomach. After about 30 minutes of noping the fuck out of there, we eventually pulled up the tunnel. We all got out, it was pitch black, and there wasn't a single sound. We walked through the tunnel, looking at all of the graffiti and listening to our echoes, feeling safe in such a large group. Then, nothing happened. It was a fun time, actually. We got back in the car and headed back to the Kroger to drop everyone off, but my car was further in town, so my friend Dylan said he would drive me to my car. Where the scary shit happened. It was around 1 a.m. at this point, but neither of us were really tired and the roads were completely empty. We kept up a conversation, completely taking the tunnel out of our minds for the entire drive back to my car. Once we got further in town where the roads were lit up, we weren't even 10 blocks from my car, when I got a weird feeling. Dylan and I had paused our conversation, and I was looking out the window, when I heard tapping and scratching. I figured it was some object moving around in his backseat, but I caught a glimpse of something in his rear-view mirror. Even then I thought it was just a shadow, but the noise happened again, the same time that I absolutely 100% saw something crawl in his backseat. No fur, not big enough to be human, just dark skin and small limbs. It moved up the seat, then behind it, fast. I immediately looked over to Dylan, who had his hands gripped tight on the steering wheel, and he had tears running down his face. His eyes were glued on the rear mirror. Up. Fuck. Please. Please, tell me you saw that. It touched me. At this point I was not just seeing shit. Dylan. Holy fucking shit. Please pull over. He looked at me then said, "Don't turn around." We started passing a Cheddar's with a huge, empty, and very brightly lit parking lot where he jerked the car over, crossing 3 lanes and slammed his brakes in the middle of the parking lot. We were stopped. Ready, don't let anything get out. Then we both jumped out of the car and slammed the doors behind us as quickly as possible, keeping our eyes on the car to make sure nothing ran out, and nothing did. We stood there for a moment discussing what we saw, and it turns out we both saw the same thing. Probably a raccoon or something, I hope. I said. I'll fucking kill it for scaring me so bad, Dylan replied. We opened the trunk first and dug through everything, and nothing. We opened the side doors, nothing. There was absolutely nothing in the car. Nothing ran out, nothing moved. We just stood there in disbelief, and ended up walking back to my car, where I gave him a ride home.